I'm going to talk about how you, as a beginner, an intermediate, or even as someone who's advanced, can dramatically build up your defensive capabilities. Our approach to it with the Keppner boxing system and curriculum is a little bit different. A lot of times you learn feet is first for defense. And while this is true, it is also not true in certain ways. Range is going to be the primary predictor of whether or not you get hit, because if you're away from somebody, if you're across the block from somebody, you're not going to get hit by them. Now, unless they have something else besides fists and boxing gloves. Now, let me talk about our system and the reason why we approach it this way, and how it can also really help dramatically shift and increase your ability as a boxer. No matter if you're just starting to build your base as a boxer or you already have a big base built. How we classify, how we teach our defense is based off of a few different factors. Number one, what's going to be the most energy efficient thing to do, while also being the best fit for a wide variety of styles and capabilities. And then also what is going to be useful in the widest variety of circumstances. All right, so think about that. Let me use that to address feet first. If your defense is feet first, if you end up on the ropes or in a corner, then you might not have good defense in that moment, because feet first is your foundation. And I've seen this play out time and time again with fighters that get put in a position they're not comfortable with, and they're not able to be comfortable because, in my opinion, they don't have that base built up with their defense. All right, they're used to only using their feet. Then when the feet are taken away, it might take a long time for that to happen. But let's say as they get up as a pro fighter and there's enough rounds for the feet to be taken away, then it becomes a big problem. And with our philosophy, we're all about building people up to whatever level they want to get to. So doesn't mean, of course, the majority of people won't ever get to pro, even if they want to get to pro and do it properly. But still, we want to build that same base, okay? And we're a little bit biased to pro boxing and that system and that way of fighting, because that is, by definition, the peak of the hierarchy of boxing. So why don't we all just strive to progress to that eventually? All right, now with learning the way we teach, which is hands first is the concept that we teach in the Keppner boxing curriculum. Hands first, what does that mean? Does that mean punching first? Well, that'd be great, but that's not necessarily defense, right? Of course, sometimes a good offense can be good defense. Your hands, using your hands and your arms to block punches or defend against punches, is going to be energy efficient, right? Because you don't have to be doing a lot of running, not that you shouldn't be doing running, but you don't have to be doing a lot of running and road work to get on your bicycle nonstop to avoid getting hit by somebody, all right? You don't have to be really fast on your feet. Some people, of course, every fighter could benefit from being better on their feet. Of course, that is the base. But not every fighter is blessed with good footwork. And while everyone's could be better, some people, they reach a limit. And then also too, the feet and the legs are big parts of your body, all right? Moving your whole body is probably about the hardest thing to do versus moving a hand. If you were to think of a hierarchy of movements, moving the legs, the biggest muscles, right? You're moving your whole mass. That's going to be probably the most energy consuming activity. The next is going to be moving your head, which really means moving your torso and involving some leg movement. And then last is going to be moving the arms, because they're the smallest, all right? And then think about it as well, they are the quickest to move. They have the least distance to move, all right? Because they're just right here to here. That's all you need to block a shot, different places. You don't have to do these dramatic, huge movements. And obviously with any movement in boxing, you want to minimize as much as possible, but the hands allow you to minimize it even more. And then of course, we're all used to using our hands. We have hand-eye coordination. And as a fighter, you're gonna develop that. And it's just a great base to build, and it has the most uses for the most styles, because you can be a boxer mover, and if you have good hand defense as well, you just maximally increase your arsenal there. You can be a come forward, non-stop pressure fighter. You can't use your legs necessarily. Like, yes, you can do a lot of angles and things like that, but oftentimes that's actually gonna be detrimental to your forward attack if you're trying to cut a lot of angles as you're trying to come forward on somebody. Or if you're a counterpuncher and all you have are your movements or head movement for the counters, that limits you in the variety of ways you can counter someone. And again, As you go up levels, these holes that are very small and sometimes invisible get bigger and bigger and bigger and grow like a cancer. And then eventually, sometimes people don't find out until they're almost at the pinnacle of their career. And it's like, holy crap, I haven't built out all of these things. And I have these huge crevices of deficits that are just wide open. And now they can't get past B+ level. They can't go on to whatever level they want to be because they don't have that base built up. So we're really big on that, using hands for defense for beginners, because that is just the simplest thing you can do. If I put my hand in front of my face for a jab, even if I hit myself accidentally because I don't time it right, I'm not going to get hit clean by that jab. I'd be better off. Versus if you only taught me to step out of the jab or to sidestep the jab. Those are things that are take a lot more coordination, a lot more athleticism that not everyone is gifted with, and especially in the beginning, not everyone has. The last thing is to think about, as far as the variety of circumstances that you can, or the variety of situations you can combat with having hand defense as your base. Think about it. I can counter you coming forward. I can counter any punch with almost any punch. Versus if I'm always, let's take the peekaboo system, right? Which is a very limited system, as anyone will tell you. Not that there's not great things in it, but it gets over glorified and over mystique. Just like any other type of idea or boxing move, whether it be, I don't know, like an ollie shuffle or a Philly shell, whatever. All these things are useful things, but maybe not the ollie shuffle so much. But all these things are useful things, pieces from peekaboo, da-da-da. But as far as like that's your only and that's your core foundational base, no, not really. You're gonna have big holes again that are gonna be opened up later. Now, if you are always moving your head to avoid a punch, like yes, you're not taking any damage. So big plus in that point, right? The arms aren't gonna get worn out, all right? Yes, and it does set you in position so that your leverage is built to return with a power shot, okay? All those things are true. Now, the downside to, let's say, if you're peekaboo style, right? If you're like a hardcore fundamentalist peekaboo boxer, right? Which a lot of people on YouTube want to be, it seems like. If you're always moving your head to react to a punch, to set up a counter punch, guess what? That's a big movement that sticks you on one side, sticks you in one place that can be used to counter you, number one, okay? Number two is, you're kind of stuck with what punch you're gonna generate force with. All right, if I slip to my lead side, my left side, I'm stuck to generating force with my lead side. If I go to my rear side, it's probably gonna be something powerful on my rear side. It's a little bit hard to go over here, and yes, you can shoot a shot from there, but it's not gonna be that forceful, powerful punch. Versus, I can block a shot and be in a position to turn hard, right? Block a shot, turn hard, boom, turn hard. It's very minimal movements that I need to go through in order to set up a powerful counter. And it also allows me, like I said, the most variety of punches that I can counter with. I can block a body shot, come up with basically any punch I want. I can block a left hook, come basically up with any punch I want off of it. Versus if I'm always dipping a left hook or always stepping out of it, there is some limitation on what I can throw in that moment, depending on a lot of circumstances. So these are just some of the esoteric ideas, and again, it leads me to the big thing, guys, and that's it. As long as you're accomplishing the very simple mission in boxing, which is to hit and not get hit, or to hit hard and be hard to hit, you're a successful boxer, and you're doing the art of boxing right. And a lot of these rules and everything else that people generate, while can be useful, if you are limited by those rules too much, then they cease to serve their purpose anymore. All right? So, a big intro lead into talking about hand defense. This whole way of how to progressively build up your defense so that you feel comfortable and confident in the ring. You're not getting touched, and you're also touching them more than they're touching you. We're gonna work on our hand defense, and we're gonna do it with no gloves, okay? The person working your defense is going to be wearing gloves. We're not bare knuckle boxing, but you're going to be defending punches with no gloves. Now, why am I going to have you defending punches with no gloves? This is something that my father taught me that comes again from decades of boxing, and that is to develop that accuracy with your hands. If you have a big fat glove on, let me tell you a quick story. I had this one pro fighter, and he had pretty good defense. Good enough defense that actually James Toney saw him fight under me, and he said, wow, this guy got skills. This guy has great defense. Why? Because we train just like this. So if you want that, listen to me. There's a period of time where he started training in 18-ounce gloves to build up some arm strength endurance, arm endurance, and whatnot. He might have had like a hand issue, I can't remember. And I saw it dramatically decrease his defense. Why is that? Because an 18-ounce glove is way bigger than a 10-ounce glove that you would fight in as a pro at his weight. So you have the bigger glove, the fatter glove. It's going to automatically defend more punches just by its width. And it's not realistic, and it doesn't build up accuracy. I was just watching a fight the other night where this one gentleman was fighting another guy, and the coach was telling his fighter, who's getting hit by right hands, that he needed to keep his left hand up. But if you watch in the fight, the guy had his left hand up, but the position was not right, okay? He was like this, and you can see my face. And if I'm boxing you right now, you can hit me with a shot, unless I move this here, unless I move something to stop it. So just having the hand up, there's a good basic thing, like I kid on with some fighters where they'll go like this, and the coaches will tell them, hands up, hands up. They'll go like this, and every shot gets through. Why? Because, I mean, they're positioned, right? They're not having accuracy with where their arms are, where their hands are. So you can hit me up the middle with a 1-2, you can come around with the 3, come around with the right hook, come up with the uppercuts, hit me with the body shots, everything is there for you to take. My hands are up though. So that's a very important thing, is that hands up is not the solution to everything. Like, yes, you want to have your hands up, but if you're just simply hands up, that's not the answer, okay? You can try to clamp it, but still other things open up, and it also limits your counters. It's pretty hard to do a counter off of that position. So that's where we're gonna take it to the extreme. No gloves, you got just your hands, all right? And therefore, if you're not catching a jab right where it needs to be caught, and you're a little bit off here, there might be a gap there that you don't know about. And with your 16-ounce gloves, when you're sparring and whatnot, you might not be finding out that you're not there. And then you go to fight with some 10 ounces or whatever, and stuff's getting through, and you're like, what the hell? I thought I was there. I see that all the time. Guys, they're here. They're almost there. They're not all the way, and they think they're all the way, and a good sharpshooter is splitting right up that little opening and catching them, all right? So it's the best way to fill in these holes, to have no gloves on when you work defense. And then also too, you can't rely on the cushion of the glove to defend the punch. What do I mean by that? What I mean is that a lot of times it's easy to kind of just lay a hand here and there's cushion so you can get hit. But guess what? If I have my hand on my head and you hit my head and I don't have a glove on, that's gonna hurt more. I'm gonna feel that more. And you might say, well, Keith, that doesn't matter, because in a fight, you can go like that and you're fine. Well, guess what? That's not always the case. The hierarchy of hand defense is the worst thing is get hit clean. All right, so we don't want to get hit clean. We can all agree on that matter, all right? Now, let's step down the lines, okay? 2 more steps to go. The next best to getting hit clean is to have a hand that gets in the way, whether it's like you catch a punch and you're like that and it slams into your own face, but you still didn't get hit clean by the punch. Or, you're here and it hits you afterwards, or you're here just on your face like this and the glove hits here, all right? Yes, better than getting hit clean. Above that, the best you can do is the punch comes, boom, you're here. You're resisting it enough. You're not going out too far. You know how to control your timing, so you're here. You block a hook and you're here with it. You're here with it, not here with it. Because when you box a hard puncher, all right, it's gonna happen sometime if you haven't already. When you box a hard puncher, they're gonna slam your own hands into your face sometimes, all right? And if you're always used to I'm just gonna stick here, it's gonna be hard. And also the last thing I'll say about this too is that if you got hurt, all right, and you got concussed, it's a little bit easier then to take somebody out if they're like this and you can just bash the hands into the face. A lot of examples of fights where this happened. One that comes to mind is Sugar Ray Leonard versus Floyd Mayweather Sr. He was hurt, and Leonard is just bashing Senior's hands into his face, and that's controlling him, basically getting him out of there. You'll see guys get knocked out like that too, all right? So again, we want to build a base that is going to make sense and going to work in the widest variety of circumstances, against the widest variety of opponents, and a system that can be taught to people that is going to work for the widest variety of people, all right? If you have awesome feet, dude, great. But guess what? You got awesome feet, and then you finally go against someone that ends you up on the ropes and knows how to cut off the ring and stick you on the rope. You might run into panic mode if you don't develop the hand defense, all right? You might be an awesome, aggressive fighter, but you're just eating punches all the time. Just coming in, and sure, you're tough, but toughness should not be your go-to. You still need to learn how to drive the car and not say, I don't need to learn how to drive a car because we have seatbelts now. That would be as ridiculous as that, saying, oh, I'm gonna get a driver's license, and I don't think I should have to take the test on how to drive the car because guess what, we have seatbelts now, so I'm pretty well protected. No, the seatbelt is the option of last resort. Your toughness should be your option of last resort. If you're a come forward fighter, you're tough, that's great, but it doesn't mean you should be getting punched all the time. Your toughness should be your seatbelt, but your skill behind the wheel or in the ring should be the main thing you focus on and the only thing you focus on. You know, you can't change what you're God-given with. Some of us aren't God-given with the ability to take a big shot. Some people are God-given to be able to take a big shot, and that is what it is, okay? Now, so we're building up the accuracy when we're defending punches with just hand defense. And if you're not resisting punches in the right way at the right time and develop that ability for timing, it's going to be a little bit annoying in the beginning. But this is how you titrate it. You start off first having a partner throw single shots at you. Single shots so you can literally develop the muscle ability and the timing, the coordination to know, and the proprioception to know. Proprioception just means knowing where you are in space with your body and where your body parts are. So knowing exactly where that hand is, if it's in the right position or if it's a little bit forward, where it exactly is, if you are in the proper stance position, are you sided up? Is your chin down? Because if you only worked your feet for defense, you could get away with your chin up in the air all day long. But guess what? Eventually you're gonna have to be in a situation where that might bite you and you have to come forward against somebody because you're behind, and you come forward with your chin up in the air and they're crazy and wild and they crack you. They knock you the hell out, or at least hurt you really bad, or vice versa, you end up on the ropes, like I said earlier, right? So what this does is allows you to build up that base so that you are in control. You're not trying to escape, because that's another thing too with beginners specifically, but even higher level guys, when they start working defense, they start creeping back. They start creeping back automatically. They start creeping back. Well, guess what? If you're a shorter boxer or going against someone who's a little bit longer reach than you, and every time they throw punches, you creep back a little bit, good luck trying to get a counter on them. It's gonna be very difficult. Now, there are some situations where creeping back will help lure them in to your range to hit them, but still, you need to be able to come forward or at least stay put on your defense. Think about the greatest defensive fighters you can think of, right? I don't know, one guy comes to mind, I don't know if you've heard of Floyd Mayweather. He could sit on the ropes and he could defend punches with his shoulders, with catching, etc., blocking, and that allowed him to be an excellent counterpuncher. And any great counterpuncher you look at, the same thing is the truth. They have great hand defense, all right? They're able to use their hands and their arms and shoulders to defend punches. All right, so you start off first with a partner throwing specific shots at you, so you build up that ability to know where your body is in space, to know the trajectory of a punch, and to know what a punch looks like. All right, to know the difference between a jab and a hook or an uppercut with the same hand, what those little telltale signs are, and then once you got that down, then you have them start put the pieces together. They start putting certain pieces and sequences together, like a 1-2, a 1-2-3. So now you're blocking not singular punches, but now punches in combination. Because guess what? If you only block singular punches, most people very quickly, after a little bit of practice, can get to blocking singular punches pretty excellently. Where it becomes harder, and you should keep this in mind for yourself for your offense, where it becomes harder to block punches or defend against punches, is when you're putting them in combination. All right, because then they have to be able to see the sequence while all this stuff is happening versus one single shot. All right, so now you're blocking combinations or punches in sequences and combinations. Then the next level you add to that is also mixing in some feints, because this is going to help also build up your ability to not overreact to punches. Okay, because also, by the way, too, while we are doing this defense, we are making sure not only keeping the foundational items of stance like chin down, side up, hands up, knees bent, but we're also making sure we're destroying our blink reflex. All right, the blink reflex is a sneaky little thing, and it sucks, and it's horrible, but it's the one thing that probably keeps you away from being a better defensive fighter, and that is that blink reflex. And it creeps back. If you don't keep it smashed down, it will always creep back. I got rid of it. Right now, I do blink a little bit. Why? Because I'm not in practice. I don't train anymore. And if you don't have enough time in the ring, or you spend it away from the ring, you'll notice you'll kind of start flinch a little bit more, because it's such a evolutionarily ingrained thing to protect your eyes. Something's coming at your eyes and there's like dirt particles or dust or sharp things on it. You want to close that right away. But as a boxer, you want to get to the point where you'll be walking down the street and a bug will fly right into your eye because you have destroyed that blink reflex, or it's unconditioned for that time. And again, like I said, if you don't keep it down though, it will creep back eventually. So you just got to always keep it down. And working your defense like this, great way to distinguish it. All right, now, then we get those feints going, because the feints are also going to tell you if you're flinching, if you're blinking. Because if someone's feinting you, you're anticipating something coming, and not everything happened that you thought would happen with that thing coming, and that will also lead you to blink sometimes. So sometimes you can be blocking shots and be good on shots that are actually coming. Like you can anticipate it, you know it, etc. But then something comes you didn't expect, you go out to stop it, and there's nothing there. You will sometimes then blink at that point. Like, oh, I didn't see what was coming, so you're gonna shut everything down for a second with the eyes to protect them. So again, another great way. But then of course also, it's to make sure we're not overcommitting to punches, because you don't want to, boom, block shots out here, out here, out here. You want to build that precision so you stay within this kind of like 3 or 4 inch area of the goal, which is the head and the body of that area. Imagine like a little force field around all of this stuff that you want to stay in and you don't want to go beyond. Because if you do go beyond, then you're going to be making yourself open to shots. And then also think about this too, it allows you to counter better too. Because again, if I'm going out here to block a shot, even if I am blocking a shot every time I'm out here, guess what? It's going to be hard to counter with that hand, right? Versus if I'm here with it, I can shoot off of that, right? So just very important things to keep in mind. Over dramatic moves are going to cost you more energy. They're going to open you up to get hit by more things, especially as a beginner, but even as an advanced. But especially if you're a beginner and you're going out like this to try to stop shots, like yes, you might be getting away with it, but if you don't develop that ability to keep it in the box and defend yourself properly, then again, like I said, over and over again, you're going to end up in a situation, get somebody good enough at some point in time where, holy crap, that doesn't work anymore. They broke past the fence. And now you have to actually learn how to defend yourself properly. The next step is also being able to incorporate your defense now with all of your other defensive maneuvers, all right? So again, hands first, because they're the fastest thing and they cost the least energy, and honestly, it takes the least athleticism too. So anyone, whether you're a great athlete or not, you can learn to use your hands to defend punches. So you got that down. Then you're able to do punches in combination. Then you're able to deal with feints and not overreact to feints. Then the next level of that is how about we incorporate everything else into our defensive repertoire. Meaning now we are going to utilize our feet because we've built up that comfort level that you can stand in one place and defend punches, or you can even come forward and defend punches. Now you incorporate some of the head movement, you incorporate some of the footwork. Because again, take my word for it, but you can tell me if you've boxed, if you agree with me or not. But if you're always trying to move the head, let's say from every single punch that comes at you, and you're not reading punches correctly, and you're moving the head, it's hard to keep your vision as you're moving sometimes, and that movement puts you in a spot where you don't see the next shot coming. Versus, take my word for it, if you don't have this experience, or if you haven't yet, try it. Just catching and blocking punches, then you see something. If it was the wrong thing, you thought something came, with something else, you can get it to where it needs to go. Because again, everything's there. But the more you're doing this stuff here, it's a little bit harder to kind of see because everything's moving. And the last level, now we're going to integrate this to one more stage before you put it in sparring. Of course, this whole time you're training, you're sparring and things like that. But as far as practice, right? How can we practice to the closest techniques and forms that are the sport of boxing, without just literally sparring every day, which would be great for your ability as a fighter, but bad for this mushy thing inside your skull, right? And then also sometimes you do develop bad habits if you do spar all the time. I've noticed that aspect as well. Punches get goofy, weird little habits creep in that sometimes are not going to serve you later on. that you kind of do to just go against a certain opponent, things like that. Now, how can we incorporate, because this is something I've seen happen, is I've had fighters where I've built up their defense impeccably. They cannot be touched. They can't be moved, they can't be rocked. They are very sharp. But, here's the big but. So they're hard to hit, but they're not hitting, or they're not hitting very much. So they have this thing, and I know I had sometimes this trouble with my training as well, where I would build up my defense so well, have everyone in the gym. I remember I went to one gym where where the coach had everybody work my defense before I got a chance to spar. So everybody in the entire gym worked my defense. I didn't throw one punch. And it was good. A lot of respect for that coach. Cool way to see and assess someone's ability is just to have them work defense against everyone in the gym and see if they can properly defend themselves. Because if they can't properly defend themselves, that's part of our philosophies too. If you can't even properly defend yourself, I don't care if you can be aggressive and everything else. We need to get that down first, okay? You need to at least have some ability to defend yourself before you're starting to spar and things like that. Because just getting hit is only worth so much, and that's not very much. And if you want to take boxing serious at all as a hobby or as a sport, you have to learn how to not get hit, all right? And everything else is better from there with boxing. And the less you learn that, everything is going to be harder, and you run into all of the dangers, and the only dangers of this beautiful sport of boxing, which is head brain trauma, right? So you minimize how much you get hit, you minimize the only downside of the beautiful sport of boxing, all right? That has so many upsides, but that's the only downside. So anyway, work defense with everyone in the gym, looking great. But something I had trouble with is that I wouldn't integrate it enough. You see this happen a lot of times. Guys and gals will, when they go defense, they literally change their stance. They're not in the same stance they are when they're aggressive or when they're being offensive. So you have to have an integrated style, integrated form, integrated fundamentals, so that you are not like, I'm defense now, and then I'm offense now, whatever, right? It has to be together. It has to be pretty close to the same exact thing, so that you can actually integrate that from time to time, or not from time to time, but from moment to moment, where you are defensive, offensive, in the same moment, right after the moment, right before the moment. You shoot some shots, defend some shots, you defend some shots, shoot some shots. While they shoot some shots, you shoot some shots, right? Those three scenarios is what you need to be able to deal with. I remember there's this one training partner I had, I'd spar with all the time, and he would have some trouble because the moment I start laying some bombs on him, shut down, defensive mode. Now, if I wasn't laying some bombs on him, he was looking pretty good. He's looking like he was Joe Calzaghe or something like that, you know, boom, 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 doing all this stuff. But the moment I would start to get something cooking on him, shut down. Versus, of course, like you guys know that have any boxing experience, you start going against somebody that can integrate all those pieces together, it sucks for you because you start trying to get something cooking and they'll freaking smack that away from you and they'll boom, boom, boom. You're like, dang, I was starting to get something going, man. Give me a chance to put my punches together. Versus, again, the guy that's just, when you start putting your punches together, they'll just shove up and you're like, okay, cool. I get to think about how I can put some hurt on you, all right? So integrating those together. How do you do that? You do that with this awesome technique that is the biggest takeaway of this whole video, because no matter how you train your defense, which I recommend you do it within the ways that I recommend, building up hand defense first, and then from that, everything else flows. But now, this is how you can incorporate it into daily training that is not going to overly hurt you and cause too much damage, all right? And require you to spar every day. And that is where you can have a training partner that knows how to work with you, or your coach throw punches at you while you shadow box, counters, combinations. So it allows you as a boxer to integrate your defense with your offense in a non-sparring or fight situation. Beautiful thing, because so often it's hard for us when we're hitting the bag to truly react and defend punches like we actually have someone throwing punches at us. And same thing when you shadow box, right? We all know good shadow boxing is actually shadow boxing in a fashion that is exactly like how you're gonna fight, which is going to be defending punches and shooting punches, and movement, et cetera, everything all put together. But guess what? You do this, it can help some people bridge the gap, or everybody, honestly, bridge the gap of going from learning the defense, learning the offense, piecing those two things together outside of sparring or competition, all right? And the last thing I'll say about this too is I've seen this be an excellent way for someone that's experienced or a lot of experience to work with some lesser experienced individuals, all right, in a sparring situation. Because we all know the ideas of titrated sparring, right? Where it's like, okay, so I'm more advanced, I'm working with someone less advanced, so I'm just gonna be doing the jab. So I'm defending punches, jabbing, whatnot. They have everything, I just have the jab. Or I just have body shots, or whatever, right? I'm limiting something of mine, or a lot of things of mine, to a couple things or one thing to help that person so they don't have too much to deal with defensively, and they do everything because I'm more experienced, so I should be able to deal with that, right? Or I'm gonna be working on one thing, right? So maybe I can do everything, but I'm working on one specific thing with this lesser person because, again, the best opportunity to test things out and be in your laboratory is when you're dealing with situations where it's like not gonna be an atomic bomb if you test the wrong thing, right? Now, again though, another way to do it is you could be having yourself spar against someone who's a lot less than you, defending all the punches and literally throwing every single punch you want to throw, but you're just shadow boxing it, right? And that gets you that mindset of being able to, in the middle of throwing something, adjust something, see. Honestly, see too, because that's my last point, is that you have to be able to see. That is the biggest thing in fighting, is your ability to see things and then to appropriately anticipate things, right? Some of that's pattern recognition that you get from time, right? From enough time doing the sport, but people's ability to look at the information-rich areas, which the number one information-rich area to look at when you box somebody is their chest. And it's not only going to give you the most information, but it's also going to protect you the most. Why is that? Because if I have my chin down and I'm looking at your chest, it helps keep my chin down. If you're up here or something like that and I want to look up at your eyes, my head's going to go up. And again, I was a shorter boxer, and so therefore most people I box were at least a few inches taller than me. So if I was looking up at the face, I'll be like that. And then my chin's not down at all. I'm gonna get my nose broke and whatnot, all that stuff. I'm here, it's not too much trouble. The only punch that can get me like that and really get the button, the jaw, or the nose is an uppercut. Everything else is pretty well defended. And as you see in this video here, just to prove a point, I have one of our coaches shooting their hardest right hand. This girl's about 165 pounds, right? And she's hitting me with her hardest right hand, and it doesn't hurt. Why does it not hurt? It's not a problem, because my dang chin is down. And especially when you have some sweat going and everything else, or Vaseline on your face, you're in a pro fight, whatever, amateur fight, it slides down. It slides down. You're not gonna get concussed. You're not gonna get hurt. You're not gonna get your nose broken. You're not gonna get your brain shook, your money took, or your name in the Undertaker book. All right? So that wraps up my video, guys. Again, to recap, number one, build up your ability to just catch straight shots, block hooks, catch uppercuts. Build up your ability to do that with no gloves on in a controlled fashion. Then, once you have that down, then your ability to block all of the punches in boxing with just your hands and arms in combination. Then build up your ability to then kind of integrate all the defenses together. So your default, your base, your fallback is your hands, because you can do that anywhere in any situation. Then you also incorporate your feet, your head movement, things like that. And then the last piece before you plug it into your complete repertoire as a boxer is to be defending punches, real punches, while you're shadow boxing. And that's how you know you got somewhere and you're pretty decent, because then the next stage is competition, and you'll see it pay off big time. Take my word for it. This is Coach Keith Keppner. If you like this video, make sure you click like. If you're not subscribed already, make sure you click subscribe. And if you have any thoughts, comments, or questions, put them below. See you on the next one.